coffee with council. All right, let me see here. The number to call today is 1-888-788-0099. And when you call that number, enter the meeting ID 852-9031-1316. And we will call on folks by the last 3 digits of your telephone number. Oh, looks like this might be slightly cut off. Hold on just a sec. Let me reshare that. Let's try that again. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. So that is 1-888-788-0099. And the meeting ID is 852-9031-1316. So go ahead and call that 800 number. And we will call on folks by the last 3 digits of your telephone number. And remember, when you call in, to mute the live stream and listen for the instructions on your telephone. All right, so it looks like we have caller ending in 842. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Sorry, the system was talking over everybody, so I only listen in on the phone, so I really don't have anything. All my stuff is updating right now, so I don't use the live stream. If anybody would like to provide a topic, I'll surely comment on it, but other than that, I'll go back on mute.
You got it. All right, how about caller 740? Oh. Caller 740, you should be able to unmute yourself. Good morning. Looks like you're unmuted, but we can't quite hear you.
There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Right.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Technical difficulty. Good morning. Thank you for taking my comment. I'm calling with regard to the recent city council meeting discussing sending a letter of support to Boulder County with regard to the compost facility proposal. The meeting was actually kind of disturbing to me and disappointing. I am not one of the people involved in the lawsuits, but I am one of the many people who are concerned about the county's proposal, and the recent withdrawal of the proposal, at least for using the land at the Rainbow Open Space, is a step in the right direction. But I think we need to look harder at what has occurred so far. And there are a lot of, I would say, disturbing facts about how this project was proposed. I know, based on the meeting that I listened to, that the Longmont City Council doesn't necessarily feel that it's their place to dictate or really even push the Boulder County officials on these kinds of topics. But I do think you have a duty on behalf of your constituents, who are also taxpayers, to make sure that their money is being adequately spent wisely. It was very concerning to me listening to almost a dismissive tone about the people who have concerns about this. It's not just a few wealthy homeowners, it's hundreds of people on social media struggling to find ways to get their message out into the world. And the issue related to biosolids is not a rumor or a lie made up by people who are concerned. It's very much documented fact. that the Boulder County officials have stated in public. That was part of the plan. They also plan on shipping materials in from across the entire Front Range. And of course, the issue related to using open space. At this point, I think, given all the issues, I think they've probably even acknowledged by withdrawing the proposal. Doesn't the Longmont City Council feel that they owe their constituents something other than just a blanket support statement? Don't you feel like you should be talking to Boulder County about how did we get here? Why is there so much concern? Why are there so many discrepancies with the proposal? Why did it have to be withdrawn? And how do we prevent this from happening again on behalf of your own, like I said, your own tax-paying citizens? Sorry, I'm rambling. So thank you for taking my comment. I appreciate the time.
So I don't know how to do these virtual coffee with councils. I raised my hand and then I realized nobody's going to call on me. So I would like to make a statement there. And to the caller, you didn't tell me your name, but I would like to say that personally, I did not explain this very well on council. So for that, I apologize. What I realized, and Mr. Allen did not get a chance, he was not called on during the meeting, was that staff has already engaged in this whole process. And it isn't that we're not concerned, we are concerned, but for what we really need is an update or I guess it is an update from staff on how they were engaged, what the path was to get there, and explain that it isn't that we accept, or I'm only speaking for myself, that I accept everything that the commissioners have done, but I do support a facility. Where that's going to lead, we don't know yet. But I personally would like an update from staff, and even if it's just in an email, as to what that process has been up to this point. For us to jump in right now without understanding where it went, I think would be premature. So I do empathize with you. And I think this is an ongoing discussion at this point. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you for the reply. My name's Jeff. I apologize for not giving my name earlier. Don't you think by sending a letter of support to the county, you are jumping in? If we have these legitimate concerns, shouldn't we be sending a letter that says we are not taking a position until we have more information?
This has been a topic of discussion for at least 2015. This is not a new idea. It's been in the works for a very long time. For me, and we did put an amendment in that letter that we wanted to be part of the discussion. So I don't think that a very heavy hand is needed in this. I think a cooperative discussion, and we did make that amendment per Council Member Tim Waters' amendment to that letter. So again, I think we can go forward in a better collaborative effort. So keep in touch, and we'll continue to have these conversations.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so let's do caller 281. Caller 281, you should be able to unmute yourself. Caller 281. All right, we'll come back to you. Let's try caller 3. Oh, yes, Harold.
I just wanted to actually point something out on the letter that the council adopted. It wasn't a letter for a specific location. And the key point in that letter was that they support a regional composting facility in Boulder County, they did have the amendment that said we need to be part of those conversations. But that to Councilmember Peck's point, it's really something that has been in discussion for a while, and we're just saying we support the need of it here, and we want to work with you and look at finding a location. I think one of the locations that was on there that we threw out was an old landfill site that we own, and so that's part of the work that we'll be doing as staff, and that'll be the update that we will provide council. But it really is about engaging and really the need for a regional facility for all of our communities in Boulder County, but not supporting a particular location at all. Just wanted to make that clear. I was just checking some notes. Sorry, Erica, go ahead.
No worries. I was just making sure that *6 is the unmute. The unmute shortcut if you're listening in and having trouble. But it looks like caller 740, did you have something else to add after Harold made that comment?
Sure, if you're willing for me to use up more of a little bit more of your time today. I appreciate the point about, not jumping in on the location. I'm not sure necessarily, based on the information I've seen, we even need a compost facility in the county, and I'm not opposed to it. My concern comes from the county's own assessments indicating, even as recently as 2019, we don't necessarily need one. And there's a lot of concern about local farmers. Councilman Martin brought up that they can't use the compost we have. Again, not that I'm opposed to it. There are just, if this has been in development since 2015, we should have a clearer picture of this has to happen. These are why it happened. Here's the facts supporting why it has to happen. And calling to the CU forum a few weeks back, there wasn't even clarity on that. The county representatives were disagreeing with each other on the call about the facts related to this facility. So, I think I've taken up enough of your time, but I appreciate trying to stay neutral on it, and but I am concerned about neutrality sending its own kind of message.
Great, thank you. All right, let's try caller 341. Caller 341, *6 to unmute. Remember to mute your live stream if you're watching on YouTube. Caller 341.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Nancy Davis, and my family has a farm directly next to Rainbow Nursery, and I have done very little since at least November besides work on this, and it was really quite depressing yesterday when I watched the meeting on March 16th. The word NIMBY came up several times, and the word NIMBY is one of those things that people use to dismiss other people for things that they would do themselves. There's not one single person who's had anything to do with making this facility get to the point where it is, where the county has already spent at least $2 million on this project, and no one knew about it. No one heard of RCAB, and and no one lives near it. And I know that Ms. Peck, you said, I've known about it for a long time, and this compost facility was an idea in the making, and everybody sounds so dismissive about that, but we did not know. We did not know. And I don't understand how people can throw around this wealthy landowner thing. Has anyone seen my tax returns? Has anyone on your council seen my tax return? I can tell you that last night on my farm, I was knee deep in mud and snow trying to feed horses. And I can tell you that this morning I was up and at it. And I'm guessing you guys were not up and at it on the farm. And we put everything we have into this farm. And then we had a devastating illness for our teenage daughter. And a month after our daughter was diagnosed with a devastating illness, the commissioners voted to purchase Rainbow Nursery for this purpose, unbeknownst to us. And people are out there just saying this is this great, wonderful thing. And if anybody even questions the idea that acres and acres of land should be torn up and hundreds of carbon sequestering trees should be torn up so that they can put tons of cement, which is an environmental crisis, and water leaching into the ground and everything else. And if anybody even questions that, they're NIMBY, they're not environmentally friendly. I bought a farm because I'm environmentally friendly, because I care about the land. And I'm not sitting in my little house this morning drinking my coffee because I'm busy working my farm. And the farmers who were on the call at CU said the same thing. And it is so depressing that people are so intellectually limited that they have to use words like NIMBY and be so dismissive of other people's hard work and heartbreak. And the things that were said on that call about biosolids, for example, were simply untrue. It's just not true. And I really think that you all need to understand too that you do represent the city of Longmont, and there are many of us who will never want to do business of any kind with Longmont again, and there are many people traveling up and down 287 who will end up dead because that's what happens on 287. It isn't safe. And it's easy for you to say now, well, they've withdrawn the special use application, but we personally as a family have spent over $50,000 on legal fees. And where our business is hurting. My husband his health is failing because I'm here making phone calls and emails and everything. And you guys are just so dismissive. It's the tone of voice. It's the tone of voice in those meetings that you have no heart. And we are people. And it's not just us around Rainbow. It was the entire town of Erie. There has to be some science to this, and there has to be collaboration, and you cannot dismiss people just because they live next to something. That's how all the big environmental movements happened, is that somebody turned around and in their backyard, something terrible was happening. So I guess I would just like to know how you can dismiss me, an environmentalist, a feminist, a person who's always cared about social justice, a farmer, how you can dismiss me and say I'm a wealthy landowner and I'm NIMBY without ever having met me. I guess that's my question for you.
So can I jump in, Councilmember Peck? So I did not get a chance to speak at the meeting. I did a lot of listening because, back in 2015, I was not on council. And I totally empathize with you. And, and there were some things, the use of the word NIMBY, I cringe at that. I do not like that. And I should have spoke up at that time to call out my council members on that piece, because it is a dismissive term. It has connotations that were, historically, it was used by wealthy developers, wealthy business people. I think it was coined back in 1980 was when it started picking up traction on the use, and it is a very dismissive tone. And I want to just kind of point out we have to, as leaders of our community, stop utilizing language that is dismissive, that is offensive to our members of our community. And so, for that, I apologize. I wish that I would have spoken up more during that time. I felt like I didn't have enough information to push back on certain things. When I looked at the letter itself, it doesn't make a call to action, but it does say that we want to support the idea of having something regionally, so we are not pushing out compost to Kingsburg, because that, just the use of gas and transportation, it just didn't make sense if we have something here. It didn't seem like we were going to move forward on any project, but it just to kind of let the Boulder County know that, we support having something local. The other piece, and we were supposed to meet with our Boulder County commissioners last September, or when, no, I think it's this September we're meeting with them, but we had to cancel because of COVID. So we have not had a chance to actually sit down and have a roundtable conversation. And I definitely think when we do bring, come forward together as a city and a county, we do need to hash these issues out. And not my apologies. I mean, your situation is really, it is heartbreaking. And I think I think it's very toxic and very, it doesn't do us any good as leaders to make assumptions on people that we don't know about. So, I think moving forward, we do have to be careful with making assumptions and biases on individuals who are coming forward with that. And, I think for that piece, I do apologize. I don't think that we've moved forward in any kind of having a project that we're going to plow through on this. It was just a letter of support that we do want to see something locally. But again, it's not committing. If we find that what they propose is not in the best interest of our community and our residents, then, we still have the option to back out. This letter does not contractually commit us to moving forward. So, I hope that kind of helps clarify. This is my first time on Coffee with Council, so I still getting my feet wet here. So,
so there are a few things with that. I think that, first of all, Longmont already did sign off on the project quite eagerly, and it doesn't entirely make sense at this point, just when all of this has gone down, to write that letter of support. It seems quite pointed. I also believe, as Marcia Martin, whom I don't know personally, but as she said in that meeting, there has to be some reason and some science about this. And the whole thing with Keansburg is 35 miles. It's not 50 miles away. And that might seem like a small thing, but it's a pretty big percentage of the distance. There are also really big questions about a regional quote unquote facility. There's really only one reason to do that, and that's biosolids, and nobody will have the conversation about biosolids. And the whole thing with composting and zero waste and all of that is not to tear up more things, not to emit more carbon, not to do all of those things, but to have smaller, truly local, not crap local, but truly local composting facilities. And as far as all the meetings that happened during COVID, nobody stopped doing this to us during COVID. No one stopped doing this to us during COVID, when we were terrified for our very immunosuppressed daughter's health. And all of you kept doing this to us during COVID. And it was very much Longmont, who has, with Sustainable Resilient Longmont and with Longmont City Council, who has been doing this to us. And I think that it's really, I've tried to just stay measured and tried to take deep breaths, but that dismissive, nasty tone is so painful to see and to watch, because there's no science behind it. And Ms. Christensen said, I wrote a paper on composting in college. Are you kidding me? This is how we're making decisions? And it just can't be that way. It cannot be that these big, huge decisions are being made behind closed doors that don't bring any science, that are not truly environmentally friendly. It makes no sense to do things that way. And it is quite pointed to write this letter. And at this time, and Ms. Peck, you didn't want any amendments to it. You clearly felt like it was fine for it to be here, for it to be wherever it was. And I don't understand why there's no true scientific thinking behind this. And I don't understand how you can be so dismissive of other people, especially when you're a governmental representative.
So I'll jump in and agree with you. You're correct. We didn't do this correctly, and I sincerely apologize. For me, the reason I didn't want anything on that letter, because it was nothing more than, and for me, an acknowledgement that I agreed that we could use a composting facility, period. Where it was, the science behind it, everything needs to be discussed further. And I do know that our staff has been involved in this. The fact that council hasn't engaged with staff on it is our fault. And for that, I do apologize moving forward. I wish I could go back and undo it, but I cannot. So you do have my promise that I personally will be more engaged and more aware of what's going on. I do have to say, and this is not a good reason, but it is what happened from my opinion, is that we have 3 brand new commissioners who, it was the previous commissioners that started this process. So our 3 brand new commissioners probably did not, just as council did, engage on a better level with everybody in the county, not just with the residents. The fact that you were not contacted was a mistake, a bad one. And moving forward, I promise that we will do better. And I feel for your family.
Thank you. There are not 3 new commissioners. Matt Jones was there. He voted to buy Rainbow for this purpose. And I think that was what, Marcia Martin and I believe Tim Waters was asking, was to say to the county that it wasn't okay it wasn't okay that people didn't know about it. And I think that would have been a very good addition to the letter, but it is not 3 new commissioners. It's 2 new commissioners.
And I probably said that incorrectly, in that Matt Jones was not one of the original commissioners who proposed this idea in the past. So that's what I meant about a new group of people that are moving it forward. But it has been on the books for a while. So again, I want to reiterate that we cannot go back and undo what we did, but moving forward, we will do better.
Okay, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Nancy. We do have about 5 more callers in the next half an hour that we do want to get through. So I just want everybody to be conscious of that. I know sometimes it can be tough to see that. Caller number 488. Let's see, do we have guest 488? Oh, they may have left us. Give me just a sec. Let's try caller 756. Caller 756, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Betty Williams. I live in Erie Village, which will definitely be affected by this facility. I support compost. I believe in compost. I don't support the location, and I think it's important that the Longmont City Council, that any city council in this area who will be affected by this, let the county commissioners know that their choice of location is not appropriate. And Ms. Peck, you say you've known about this for a long time. How is it that you've known about it, but those of us that will be affected by it didn't know about it? There are lots of questions about how this has been covered up. There are questions about the ties of the Longmont coalition that supports this so aggressively. There are ties to EcoCycle, who will benefit from this. We look at Ron Stewart's letter to Times Call that very clearly says this is theft of open space land. So does the Longmont City Council support theft of open space land, or do you have the integrity, like Ron Stewart, to stand up and say, Boulder County, you are not showing integrity, and we will maintain our integrity by taking a position? I listened to your city council meeting where there was this discussion about demand. We can't demand. This is not a demand. This is integrity. This is honesty. This is not taking taxpayer funds and purchasing a piece of property and then down the road saying, oh, we'll just switch it to other funds. We'll pay for it in a different way. They've lost public trust. And Ms. Peck, when you shake your head, no, while one of your council people are talking about NIMBYs, that is just plain disgusting. Thank you.
So Harold, I do have a question. The location, they've withdrawn the location. So
Correct.
that's no longer.
No, they have not.
They have not. And so, and can you tell me, where did you hear this from? And I'm not trying to be like, I don't believe you. I want to make sure I'm following up on this so I have accurate information.
Well, so what, and I'm texting with Bob Allen.
Okay.
And I think there's a few things that I need to point out. As staff, we have not signed off on this facility or this location. We were part of different conversations. As I mentioned earlier, we proposed one of the locations that we said we could look at was an old landfill site that's property that we own that we're unable to use because it's a landfill site. But we as staff have not signed off on this location. What I understand is that they have pulled this from consideration, and a big piece of that was that the county commissioners, the new county commissioners, couldn't discuss it in its current form because it was a quasi-judicial matter. And as you all know, when we have those in play, you all can't talk about them locally. So they have pulled that from the planning process so that the county commissioners can talk about the issue. What I can tell you is we are in the process of engaging to talk about our other locations that we can look at for this. Once again, talking about our old landfill site, understanding there's probably going to be issues there, but to move through it. So I wanted to make that clear. So our understanding is that it is no longer in the planning process. In this, they have removed it from it so that the county commissioners can actually have conversations on it, but I'll double check that.
So, and I do intend on following up with our county commissioners now that we can actually have conversation on this. And the other thing too is, so I did drive by. So when people tell me of certain areas, I'll look on the map, but I need, for me personally, I need to get a sense of what this space looks like, I need to be there. And and so it made sense, the concerns that I was hearing from people who live and work and drive these areas. So in knowing that, this area was no longer being used for consideration, I thought, okay, well, it's not an aggressive statement to say, we want something local. If we want something local, I like Harold's idea about the possibility of looking at a former landfill space, and looking at places that are not going to have detrimental impact on the surrounding people who live in these areas. And so I just, I do intend on following up now that we can have these conversations. I just, being, and I'm not new to council anymore. It's been 2 years, but I want to make sure that I'm, following the rules and not taking steps out of line as well. So, you do have my promise that I will be following up on those pieces. Yes, Harold.
So Bob did confirm that the application is no longer active. And which means that it's not in there. Joni can probably talk more specifically about this, but it's not in the planning process for consideration. It could always be, to be fair though, it could be resurrected in the future, but it's not an an active application now. The other thing too that, sorry. The other thing I wanted to point out is, I know that sustainable, resilient Longmont was mentioned as part of the conversation. I also wanted to point out that is a private group made up of residents of our community. And we do as staff interact with that group. But that's not a city structure or a city supported group. I just wanted to make that clear too in the conversation.
And they're not the deciding factor as well. They're residents. Like I think about Grassroots St. Vrain, who did the financing for the school district.
Right.
They had no authority over what decisions the state or the district made in the areas of financing, but they just, they put in that voice. So that, yeah, they're a separate entity who doesn't play a role in deciding.
And I just want to say really quick that the shaking of my head was at the use of the word NIMBY. I should have verbally said something rather than just shaking my head. So I can see how things can be misconstrued. So for that, I apologize. Also, I'm apologizing a lot today.
So, and you know what, I'm going to concur and defend my council member Peck, because we've had conversations around the use of NIMBY, and she does, her and I see eye to eye on that issue. And so that.
Harold?
You're on mute.
You're muted, Harold.
I just got a notice. We also need people to identify themselves for the audience. If you could reiterate that when people come on.
Sure thing. All right. Well, thank you for the call, Betty. We appreciate it. And let's take caller 257. Caller 257, you should be able to unmute yourself and you can state your name and caller 257.
Yeah, this is me. My name is Sep Seitz. I'm on Lookout Road down the block from Rainbow. What I want to talk about is not so much what has been going on, but the background of all of this. It seems to me that it has developed that composting is going to save our lives. This is not the case. Boulder County does not produce enough green waste to merit a separate composting facility. And I would suspect that what has occurred here, as people were looking at the numbers, they said, well, if we're going to do this project, we need to bring in other kinds of waste in order to make it economically viable. It is beyond my imagination that any governmental body could endorse a project of this nature without looking at what the particulars are in terms of its cost and its sustainability. I would suspect that members of the council have not really taken the time to analyze what the particular facts are in this case. I've heard mention that we're trying to do carbon sequestration and that we shouldn't be trucking our waste out to Keensburg. But nobody has said what the particular savings in carbon that is going into the air by all of these trucks would be. I don't think anybody knows what the carbon emissions of a particular truck are. And if we are going to forego Keensburg as an option and start trucking in waste from Fort Collins and Castle Rock, what are we doing in terms of this red herring? All I see is red herrings here. There's no sense to it at all, and it has really, as one of the previous callers mentioned, it has caused incredible hardship on some of the people that live in this area, and a great deal of concern about how roughshod governmental agencies are going over the opinions of people that live in the area. I happened to listen to the meeting of the Erie Board of Governors, and they were quite incensed about the fact that nobody told them that this was going on. Other people in the area have not been consulted. Dawson School, which is down the block from this proposed facility, they didn't know anything about it. As you look at it, and this is what goes back to my original point, that everybody is talking a good game about how we ought to do this and that and the other thing to save the environment, but nobody is looking at the fact that this project, no matter where it is located, does not fulfill its promise. And I think there is where everybody is either fallen asleep or fallen down on the job, and really needs to kind of say, gee, we didn't do that. We didn't think about what this really means. What do all of these trucks going up 287 mean to everybody? This is going to impact Longmont in a big way, not because the facility would be located within the city limits, but because of the traffic congestion that all of this trucking in of waste from every place in the county and on the Front Range would bring. The other thing that is totally beyond understanding is that Boulder County should decide that we should be the locus of a regional waste facility. I kind of looked into it, and I was, rebuffed on various fronts. There is no regional waste management plan. Nobody has an idea of how to manage waste in the area. So what are we going off and deciding to build a facility that nobody knows where all the stuff is going? There was another event where farmers were questioned about whether they would use this product, and they were supposed to be one of the target audiences. And they said off the bat, no, we're not. We're organic farmers, and we can't have anything to do with that product.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at the number of callers we have and the amount of time we're trying to cover this. But thank you. I have taken notes and I've written down, just key things that I want to follow up on.
Okay.
So
thank you for listening to me.
Yes,
all
absolutely.
Right. Okay. Bye-bye.
What was your name, sir?
Sep Sites. I'm on Lookout Road.
Harold, I see you had something you wanted to add. You're on mute.
Councilmember Hidalgo Farian and Councilmember Peck. John Fryer, I probably should have read the newspaper before I got on this call. There's an article on the front, just one of the questions you asked me earlier, Councilmember Farian, Hidalgo Farian, top front page article where John Fryer covered this, and the Boulder County Commissioner said Friday that the county will not consider any possible future development of a composting facility on county-owned open space property at 5762 North 107th Street. So the commissioners have publicly stated that in the newspaper article. He also referred to interviews with Commissioners Matt Jones, Claire Levy, and Martha Loachman, and each ruled out any further county consideration of creating a composting facility on the former Rainbow Nursery Tree Farm. So I know you specifically asked that question. Thanks, John, for keying me in on that. And I just wanted to let you all know. And there's a lot of information on that. And I've got to go check on a vaccination site. So if you all need anything, call me, but I just wanted to make sure you had that information.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Harold.
Thanks.
Thanks, Harold. All right, let's move to caller 257. Caller 257, you should be able to unmute yourself and state your name. Caller 257, it is *6 to unmute. And it does look like we've lost a couple of callers along the way who presumably have hung up, so. All right, 257, I'm gonna try to ask you to unmute. Let's see if, there we go. Welcome, it looks like you're with us. Go ahead and state your name.
Hi, I'm Karen Latsko. How is everybody today?
Great.
We're good, thanks, Karen. You can go ahead.
We're good. Thanks, Karen.
So this is unrelated to the current topic. I wanted to find out if it's Longmont or Boulder County, or if you could give some guidance on how to change a law. So I wanted to find out, currently, if a senior downsizes, they have to hold on to their property for 10 years in order to get a tax break on it, which de-incentivizes seniors from basically finding a property that requires less maintenance on it as they age. You know, for instance, the snow shoveling that happened last week. And I've lived in other municipalities where the tax rate is based off of age. For instance, if you turn 65 or near retirement age, then you get that tax break on your home. How do you suggest, or how do you move forward in making this issue known and trying to make changes in this arena?
Is it all right, Councilwoman Hidalgo-Herring, if I'll try to answer this. And the only reason I have a little bit of knowledge about it is because of my mom lived here and I took care of her. What I understand from my conversations, but I think perhaps talking to our city attorney would be the best way to get the real information, is that you get the tax break if you have lived in your home for 20 years. For 10 years, and then sell it or move on, not after you move out. You don't have to hold on to your home. Okay.
I understand the current law. I disagree with the current law based off of living in other municipalities. I'm trying to change the law.
Okay, and I do think that probably has to be on a state level. So I would advise contacting, oh boy, just left my head.
It's not on a state level. I don't believe. I believe it's a county level that makes that mandate. But you could be correct. I'll take both sources of information if you have it.
You know, I don't want to give it to you unless I verify it, because with our city attorney. So would you mind sending me an email to let me know how I can contact you and to remind me to look this up? Would that be a good idea for you to do that?
Sure, because this impacts an awful lot of people.
Okay.
You know, an awful lot of seniors who want to downsize, who have too much property.
Right. So let me give you my email address, and if you wouldn't mind emailing, and then I will do some research for you.
What's
It's
your email, please?
joan.peck@longmontcolorado.gov.
Is Colorado spelled out?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I
Thank
look
you for
forward to
your
your
time.
email. Sure.
All right, so we have caller 842. I know you said you were going to listen, but I see you have your hand raised. So 842, did you want to add to the conversation? Okay, it's very possible. I know you said you were just going to listen in on your phone. And then it looks like Betty has joined us again, and that's caller 756. Caller 756, did you have something else to add?
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Ms. Peck. She said that she had known about this facility for a long time, and as a community member who only found out about it recently, this is kind of a wake-up call that government does things quietly and secretly. How do we as citizens stay on top of something like this? You say you've known about it. How could we have known about it in 2015?
I was not on council in 2015, but it was nothing more than a discussion, possibly from a newspaper article that I had known about it. And because I am interested in the environment, I tried to keep up on that. But, you know, going back to our city manager's statement that this was an quasi-judicial thing going on, we could not talk about it. And in all honesty, I did not know that they were moving forward with this until it hit the newspaper, just like everyone else did. We were not, as council members, pulled into this conversation at all. So it's been a catch up for me as well. We don't always know what other councils or governmental agencies are doing unless it is brought to us, and this was not. So other than through articles in the newspaper, etc., we were not involved.
That is very interesting in that I heard from Erie Board of Trustees that all of their staff was attending these meetings and was aware of what was going on. The Board of Trustees did not know. The City Council did not know. So how is that happening in our city governments that staff attends meetings? Are they told to keep these kinds of things secret?
No.
What's going on?
No, they are not told to keep these things secret. The staff operates a bit differently than council in that they work on projects and they work on things. And then when there is somewhat of a cohesive decision or they need direction to go forward or to not move forward, then they bring it to council. There are so many things going on in the city that if council was involved with this, we would every single day have to have council meetings. But when they bring it to us, it's called first reading. It's on our agenda. And at that point, we discuss it with staff. We pull it off the agenda and discuss it if we have concerns about it, which is exactly what happened last Tuesday. The letter to addressing composting was on our agenda. And that is when it was pulled off and discussed. But before that, we really don't know everything that the city is working on. And we trust our city managers and assistant city managers, planning department, et cetera, to run this city, council does not run the city. We make policy. It is the staff that actually runs this city under Harold Dominguez's city manager's leadership. And I think that is probably.
So as a citizen, we have no way of knowing until something happens, and then we have to react. We are not a part of the process.
It's the same with city council. It is the same. So I think we're kind of running out of time. I know this answer does not help you or make you feel any better, but it is the way the cities are run. Thank you so much for your call.
Council members Peck and Hidalgo Ferrin, we do have 1 minute left in your time this morning. Erica, were there any callers remaining at this time?
Oh goodness, there we go. No, I think we have our caller 842 who was listening, and that is a wrap for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Erica, for your assistance today. Joan and Susie, thank you very much for answering all the questions for the callers today, and I have taken some extensive notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
With that, I think we're good. Have a good rest of your day.
Oh,
You too.
Well. Take care.
Bye-bye.